It appears that we have a new Edward Snowden, who leaked information on the drone campaign to The Intercept. So the International Business Times reports on this piece from The Intercept, quote, nearly 90% of the people killed by U.S. drone strikes in Afghanistan over a 5-month period were not the intended targets. The Pentagon internally admitted in 2013 that U.S. drone strikes are often carried out based on faulty intelligence. Even when drone strikes do kill the intended target, the Pentagon found the killing may compromise more valuable intelligence gathering operations. All right, so guys, let's fully understand what's happening here. Now, it wasn't that long ago that investigative reporters released some information, released some data that said over 90% of the drone strikes are not getting top Al-Qaeda officials. And you had people in the mainstream media laugh the report off or just not discuss the report in any way, shape, or form. I know when I would discuss this with people online, on Twitter, for example, which isn't, I mean, obviously you're not going to get high-minded debate most of the time on Twitter, but you would reference, that, hey, we're not really getting the right people with these drone strikes, and people would kind of, brush it off or mock it or act like, pussy lib. And now, to be perfectly clear, what they're saying here is, yeah, the investigative reporters were pretty much 100% correct. This is internal documents, internal memos in the government, where they're saying to each other, 90% of the time, we're not getting the right people. So this isn't, from Code Pink or some uber liberal source that you can't trust because you think they'll bias it in that direction. These were internal memos. They're so fucking internal that they weren't even supposed to be released, but we had somebody who leaked this in good conscience because they know that the government should not be able to hide from us what they're doing with our tax dollars when they're killing innocent people. So credit to this new Edward Snowden. We don't know his name yet, by the way. His or her name. They say, the Obama administration has consistently declined to discuss drone operations publicly, other than to tell the public that each strike is the targeted killing of a person who constituted an imminent threat to U.S. national security. Documents published by The Intercept contradict those assurances. They continue, one 2013 document circulated by the Pentagon's Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Unit details how the U.S. government continuously updates a profile on potential targets. They're each assigned a number, colloquially known as the terror suspect's baseball card, at which point it took President Obama an average of 58 days to approve a strike on that person. Quote, anyone caught in the vicinity is guilty by association, the source told The Intercept. If, quote, a drone strike kills more than one person, there is a guarantee that those persons deserve their fate. So it's a phenomenal gamble. Strikes are carried out faster, they say, in Afghanistan and Iraq, which are U.S. war zones, compared to Yemen and Somalia. And as previous reports revealed, the U.S. assumes all military-age males in a strike zone are potential enemy combatants. There you have it, guys. This is no longer just some far-left, blame America first stuff, as a lot of people wrongly thought it was at the beginning. This is the government admitting internally, talking about it. Yeah, all military-age males, they're suspects. And 90% of the time we get the wrong people. You can't have it. You can't have it. Now, I've described before on this show, I'm not somebody who's against drones in principle. But if you do drone strikes, you have to do them intelligently, and you have to have a process set up in order to do it. You can't just fucking attack and ask questions later. I mean, it should be, you should have to go through, anytime you do a drone war, you should have to get war declared through Congress because a drone war is war. Then also, you should have to get approval from the UN. You should have to get approval from NATO. You should have some sort of a system set up where it's not just one person saying, yeah, do that one. You should have some sort of, committee that involves whatever, generals and people that are on the right subcommittees in Congress, and have everybody get together. Okay, are these targets okay? If the targets are okay, make sure you run them. There should be some judicial process involved in this as well. And I know people say, well, come on, that's inefficient. It's not going to work. You can't do things fast enough. But guys, we know that the system we have now, which is the opposite of that, is the real failure. The real failure, There's evidence of it right here. 90% of the time you get the wrong people, then obviously the way you're doing is fucked up. And either you don't do drone strikes at all, or when you do them, you go through the proper process. You make sure that you have enough layers of oversight that when you're actually getting a target, well, for fuck's sake, you better know it's al-Baghdadi and you better have no civilian casualties or the fewest amount humanly possible. And that's not what we're doing. That's not our concern. We don't care about international law. We don't care about U.S. law. We don't care about the Constitution. We've gotten to the point where we're numb to how we wage these wars and how little we value human life in certain regions, specifically the Middle East and North Africa. You have to be against civilian deaths across the board. Everybody's rightly outraged when a U.S. civilian gets killed under any circumstances. Yemeni civilians don't count any fucking less. And make no mistake about it, if you're getting 90% the wrong people, this is absolutely fueling people to go join jihadists. This is why we've had studies that have shown that more people have become terrorists after we declared the war on terrorism. So if your goal was to limit or eliminate terrorists, you had the exact opposite effect. It was a total and utter failure, just like the drug war. Hey, we need to minimize or eliminate drug use. That's what they thought when they started the war on terror. What happened? Now there's more drug use and a cadre of other social ills that come along with it. Same thing with the war on terror. Terrorism bad. We got to fight it. Whoops, we killed 90% civilians. Whoops, we made a lot more people join terrorist groups now because they're pissed off about their family members and their friends being dead. We got to think this through, guys. We got to be smart about this, and we're not being smart about this. And unfortunately, with a guy like Obama and many of the Democrats today, you get soft imperialism from them. You get out-and-out imperialism from the likes of the Republicans and the neocons like Dick Cheney and George Bush and a lot of the people running on the Republican side now. But those are your choices. All-out imperialism, where you ground invade everywhere and stay there and just do all-out war, or soft imperialism, where, aren't we so kind? We just do drone strikes and air strikes and have military advisors on the ground where we kill 90% civilians. But what? We're not all-out invading. Like us more. No, I don't want to have either of those options. I want there to be a third option, which is let's get the fuck out of everywhere where we shouldn't be, and let's only use military force to protect against imminent attacks against the nation, which is not what we're doing here.